It's time now to round up today's top stories in the world of science with CTV science and technology expert. Oh, couldn't get the words out there. Sorry, Dan, it's Monday. Dan Riskin, great to see you.
Easier said than done, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. Well, it's a Monday, right? That's how it goes. But here, Dan, this story seemed right up your alley. The bat signal must have gone up on this one. But the Toronto Zoo introduced the city to Jessie, who they called the little bat that could.
Yeah, this is such a cute story. And I got to give you credit, Nick. You're the one who put it on my radar. You put up the bat signal. You're my Commissioner Gordon, I think, in this story.
Exactly.
Because normally I know all about anything bat that's happening, but the Toronto Zoo has this baby bat. It's a 1 month old basically now, named Jessie, and just cute as all get out. This is a kind of bat that lives in Africa. It's called a straw-colored fruit bat. Just adorable. Mom, unfortunately, passed away right after Jessie was born, and so the zookeepers have to take care of Jessie and hand raise him until he's big enough to sort of fly on his own and stick up for himself with the other bats in the enclosure, which will happen in a couple months. But for right now, it's just cuddles and food. And I just, you know, like a lot of people don't like bats, but you look at this and you're like, oh, well, you got to admit, that's pretty cute.
My quick question, Dan, is are bat moms that hands-on? I mean, this looks like something like humans do, but this is what bat moms do as well, eh? Yeah. Yeah.
So that baby would be holding on to mom, and the mom would be grooming her and taking care of, or sorry, grooming him and taking care of him.
Adorable.
So yeah, absolutely, they're cuddle animals for sure.
Right. Oh my gosh, so cute. Okay, next up, Dan, think unsexy thoughts. Think unsexy thoughts. Scientists have found a way for people to lose interest in sexual urges. So this is what, like the opposite of Viagra?
It's kind of the opposite of Viagra. Okay. So it's early days. What they've done is they've found the neural circuitry in mice that could one day lead to a pill you could take that would take away your sexual desires. So we know from a whole bunch of experiments and a whole bunch of other life experiences that right after sex, men tend not to be interested in sex. And the question is, what is the neural basis of that? And so researchers took some mice and they found some neurons in the brain that get activated right after sex that seem to be suppressing sexual desire. And when they tinker with those neurons, they can change how long it takes for the male to be interested again, or they can make the male not interested even though they didn't have sex. And so the idea is that one day we're going to be able to make a pill that men could take, which would make their desire go away, which is a very different thing from a birth control pill, to just have the urge go away altogether.
Dude, this B-roll is really riveting here.
The hands walking.
I'm curious to get inside that lab and just to watch these guys, like, kind of watch the mice, you know, they're having sex, and then, like, we'll give them a little nibble of something, and maybe they won't want to again. It's
and they're like, nah.
I'm kind of fascinated by that whole science, right? It's beyond us, clearly.
Yeah.
Meantime, Dan, there's a new study that can help us answer why we may struggle to recognize faces.
Yeah, this is a new study on something that's called prosopagnosia. And so this is a phenomenon that a lot of people have, but they may not know the word for it, where if you see a face, you can't tell if it's a face you know or not. This sounds weird, but about 3% of people, according to this new study, have this affliction where there might be somebody you work with every day, but if you see them out of context in a different place, maybe not wearing what they normally wear, you just don't recognize their face at all. And this face blindness, which apparently Brad Pitt is one of the people that has a certain level of this, it's quite common. And so for a lot of people, there's a big social anxiety associated with running into people they know and not remembering names or not remembering where they know people from. And this is just something that researchers are saying we should be more aware of.
I've had that for sure. Absolutely.
Oh, really,
had that happen. Yeah, definitely.
I'm the opposite of that. I think my hidden talent is recognizing people's faces.
Well, you know
and
immediately
what people
look like famous people or
whatever.
Who
they look like, their famous counterpart.
That's you're a whole other study, Jen. Yeah, that's for sure. All right, Dan Riskin, always good to chat with you. Thanks so much. We'll chat again next week.
Thank you.
All the best. Thanks.
Well, tomorrow, of course, is International Women's Day, and the Women's National Basketball Association has announced they'll be releasing tickets for the first ever WNBA Canada game tomorrow.
So for more on the preseason game featuring the Minnesota Lynxes versus Chicago Sky at Scotiabank Arena on May 13th, that's just a day before Mother's Day, we're joined by WNBA star player Napheesa Collier from the Minnesota Lynx. Napheesa, so great to have you in here with us.
Yes.
So this is pretty monumental, historic for Canada. This is like the third only WNBA game played outside of the U.S. So can you talk about how the game has kind of evolved since you've been playing?
Yeah, I mean, we're so excited to be here, and I think it's evolved. Just we're trying to expand, and we're trying to go to new places and get new fans, new audiences, and expand our horizons. There's a lot of big things for us in the future, so we're trying to grow as much as we can.
And what does it mean, Nafisa, that, basketball was created by James Naismith, a Canadian. It's a heritage minute. We all know that. So it's pretty significant that the women's game is now coming here. And it seems the fan base is growing as well. This is a big market.
Absolutely. Ticket sales are amazing. The hype around this is already so great since it's been announced. So I think we can see that this is a great market, and hopefully we'll be here a lot more.
Yeah, Nafisa, you have quite the pedigree. You're an Olympic gold medalist, 2021, WNBA Rookie of the Year. You also were an two-time, I should say, All-Star. And I was very surprised to learn that, last year after you gave birth to your daughter, Mila, 2 months later, you were back on the court. So how did you feel after that, and what made you want to go back to play so quickly?
I wanted to go back because one of my favorite all-time players, Sylvia Fowles, she was my teammate. She was retiring, so I really wanted to be there for her last season because I love her so much. But it was definitely a lot harder than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I thought as an athlete, I was like, I'll just snap back and be able to play. That was just not the case. But I'm so happy that I was able to be around the team and play with Sylvia that last summer for those couple games. And the family that I had with my team and what Mila was able to experience, it was just so special.
I'm sure.
And Nafisa, Toronto's definitely a basketball city, being the Raptors won a championship just a few years ago. Basketball is a big sport here for sure. But if people aren't necessarily as familiar with the WNBA, how would you sell the league? How would you pitch them to it in terms of why you want to buy a ticket for the game coming up in May?
We put a great product out on the court. We're fun to watch. We're competitive. I don't think there's a downside. I think it's so fun, especially if you are already a fan of basketball and a fan of the game. Why wouldn't you want to watch us? Because we are, like I said, we're putting a great product out there, and it's really fun.
Yeah, and Nafisa, what can fans expect? Who's the better team, Minnesota Lynx or Chicago Sky?
Well, obviously Minnesota. We're going to win, of course.
Okay.
What's it like being in the league right now? Because the WNBA clearly has expansion on its mind, on its horizon. To be a part of something that's growing, that's becoming so much more popular, and to be one of the standout players, what's that like for you, and how important do you feel about being an ambassador for the women's game?
It's really exciting because we always want the league to grow. So it's cool to be in the middle of that, like you said, and seeing the change as it's happening. And I take that really seriously, being an ambassador. I want to always represent myself in a way that my team and the league is proud of. And, hopefully, like you said, expansions in the future. And it's really cool to kind of be there as it's happening.
Right. Yeah, and Nafisa, over the last 3 years, WNBA regular season broadcasts, the viewership in Canada has increased by over 95%. So
awesome.
What does that tell you? Do you think that it's the women that are improving in the game? The game has, just gotten better? Or do you think that it's people's mindsets that have changed that are now highlighting, hey, women
they can play too.
Can play as well as the men?
I think it's both. You see every year. Even when I left college, it wasn't that long ago, you see talent getting better and better every year.
Right.
Social media is a big thing. You see people on social media a lot more, so there's more exposure. And I think, honestly, our bubble season was a huge thing during the pandemic.
That's right.
We were on TV a lot more, so we got a lot more exposure. So people were able to see us and see, like I said, that great product that we put out. So it's a combination of all those things, and we want to keep pushing that.
Yeah, well, Nafisa, we're going to see you here May 13th back in Toronto. Thanks so much for joining us here on CP24 Breakfast today. Appreciate the time.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
I might not have as much experience as you because I'm not super old like you, but I think I have a few experiences that you don't have. Because I've seen all of the Fast and the Furious movies, lady. And let me tell you something. It's all about family! Family! Guys, that was a signal. We practiced this 12 times. Thank you. Forgot all about my family, didn't you, goddess?
Well, the all-new epic adventure, Shazam! Fury of the Gods, marks the supercharged return of Zachary Levi as Shazam, the wisecracking teen-turned-DC superhero who must harness extraordinary superpowers to face off against the Daughters of Atlas, played by Helen Mirren, as you can see, Lucy Liu, and also Rachel Zegler. So, for more on this mission to save the world and his Shazamly, we're joined live in the studio by Shazam himself this morning, Zachary Levi. Welcome!
Hi, thank you for being here. Thanks for having me back.
So the first Shazam, it basically stayed number 2 at the box office, or no, #1 at the box office for 2 weeks when it first came out in 2019. You return now as Billy Batson, who's 18. But producer of the film, Peter Safran, has called you, Zachary, a 14-year-old trapped in a 6'4" man's body.
Yep, that's about right. I don't know, 14. I'd like to say I'm at least 17, 18 now inside.
But is that why it was so easy for you to return to do this sequel?
100%. I mean, it's why I got the job to begin with. They saw that in me. It's something I've always kind of fostered. I don't know, as an actor, you love using imagination. You have to, and wonder, and it's all very fun. And so I just tap into all that stuff.
Yeah, you can really see that come out, that boyish energy. All right, so they say that you can't choose your family, but that's not the case for Billy. He has chosen his Shazamly. Him and his foster siblings, they all have superhero powers now, but they're also kids trying to grow up, and they kind of want to do their own thing. But you want to keep the family together. So family, as you said in that clip, it's a huge theme in this film.
Oh, it's huge. Oh, absolutely. And I think, a big part of that, as you mentioned, he's 17, almost 18. And in the States, it might be the same here in Canada. At 18, you become an adult, you age out of the foster care system. And that means he feels like he's about to lose this family he worked so hard and waited so long to find, that chose him and he chose. So that's a pretty big thing. Plus, also, he's the leader of this super family now. And they're bumbling through a lot of things. And so he feels like he's failing all the time. So there's a lot of imposter syndrome. And then there's these goddesses that come to try and kill all of us and take their powers. So, there's a lot going on.
There is a lot going on. It actually starts with you talking about your imposter syndrome, which is so relatable in this day and age. All right, turning to this now, Shazam and his crew, they have to do battle with the Daughters of Atlas, which are basically Greek goddesses, played by Helen Mirren, Lucy Liu, Rachel Zegler, and they have incredible, different superpowers. So what was it like going up against them in this film?
It was amazing. I mean, Dame Helen Mirren, it's the first Dame I've ever worked with. And by the way, I don't know if she's the best. She's the best of all the dames. Also, she doesn't throw it around. She's super humble and human. She's everything you hope she'll be and more. She's just that kind of person. And also so just game to roll up her sleeves and jump in the sandbox and have fun. And I would say the same thing about Rachel and Lucy, all just incredibly wonderful, strong, talented, beautiful women on screen and off.
Yeah, you really see their fierceness, shine through. But also a lot of laughs in this film. I love the comedy because you refer to Lucy Liu's character Calypso at one point as Khaleesi while she's riding on that dragon. So how easy was it for the comedy to shine through organically? And did a lot of improv make it into the film?
So yes, improv did make it into the film, but it all flowed very organically because Henry Gayden, who wrote the incredible first script, wrote this script, and he is just such a fantastic writer and really understands the characters and the tone. And we had other writers that, kind of do little bits and bobs too, but Henry is our mainstay. He's awesome. And David Sandberg, our director, came back to kind of keep all that stuff kind of working, and they gave us a long leash. I could go and improv and ad-lib, and some of that stuff ends up making it in the movie. Honestly, I've only seen the movie once, and it wasn't fully finished, so I'm not sure which of my ad-libs made it versus the scripted stuff, but hopefully it all, feels like it all belongs in the same movie.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It felt very natural and organic. And let's talk about those special, special effects. They're pretty wild. I think I want a black unicorn and a wooden dragon right now. But the mythical creatures that we meet, they really wreak havoc on Philadelphia. And they're kind of terrifying. They're scary a bit, and I think that's because director David F. Sandberg has done a ton of horror films as well.
You're spot on. I mean, so much of the kind of cool, creepy spookiness that is inherent within, by the way, not even just this Shazam, but the first as well.
Right.
We had Dr. Savannah fighting the 7 deadly sins, and a lot of that, David is so good at being able to find the genre bits and put them in. And honestly, it's one of the things I think makes our franchise very unique, because with the creepiness and the family and the funny and all that in the heart of it, it feels like an old Amblin movie. It feels like Goonies, and that's what we're really shooting for.
Yeah, it's got that kid team vibe where everyone's coming together. Okay, lastly, before we let you go, Zachary, can you teach me how to do the Shazam transition?
What? What does that mean?
Like when you do the thing,
Oh, I just say, you just have to mean it.
Okay.
So you can say it really loud, or you can say it
Do you do something with the hands?
I don't know anything with the
You don't go like this, like, yeah. Okay, so.
There's no like Wakanda or Wonder Woman going, no, there's not I don't know.
Okay, you do it.
I kind of like, what's up? No, it's just Shazam. You just say Shazam, and that's that.
Shazam!
That's pretty good.
Okay,
That's
okay.
pretty good.
Can I be in the sequel? Okay, the next one. All right. Zachary Levi, who plays Shazam, Fury of the Gods, out in theaters March 17th. Hey, great to meet you,
So nice to
and
meet
good
you
luck
too.
with the rest of your tour and your date.
Thank you. Bless you. Have a great day.
Well, nearly 1 in 10 Canadians will develop some sort of complications with their kidneys, but as cases rise, so too does the need to find transplants. For a Peterborough couple, though, what was once a devastating blow turned into a movement that keeps paying it forward. Andrew and Ali Werner, we welcome them this morning to CP24 Breakfast to talk about all this. Good morning. So let's start with you. Good morning. Andrew, I understand that there's an event tonight that the Peterborough Petes will be putting on to really highlight this cause, but also celebrate kind of your 2-year milestone for when you first got a kidney transplant.
Yeah, thank you for having us. March 9th is actually National Kidney Day. It's also 2 years to the day that I received my kidney at Toronto General. So we're having a home game tonight against the Kingston Frontenacs, and we've been fundraising for the last week or so. And it's going to end with a silent auction tonight with a whole bunch of NHL jerseys from people I played with. So the community's been unbelievable, and the Peterborough Petes are excellent at doing these types of things.
And Andrew, you got your transplant in 2021, and Allison, 3 days later, you decided to donate your kidney. What made you want to do that?
To be honest, it was sped up the process for Andrew to receive a kidney. We went into the paired kidney program kind of blindly, not knowing a lot of information about it, and we were very fortunate. We were matched fairly quickly within about a month, and a few months later, we had our surgeries.
Wow. Okay. Incredible. And Andrew, you've lived with glomerulonephritis. Apologies if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but you've lived with it since 1999. That's a long time. And you were basically doing kidney dialysis for a year leading up to your transplant. Give us an idea of what that's like for people, you know, suffering with kidney complications.
Yeah, I mean, I found out I was playing hockey in Germany at the time and had to do normal blood work just to get insured for hockey, and kind of found out slowly what they thought was going on. And, you know, basically said at some point you're going to need a transplant, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, don't really know. So I guess it hangs on you a little bit. You know, I was able to put it onto the side and live my life, but it was certainly, you know, it's hanging there. And maybe about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it really started to the nosedive, I would say, and the preparations were made for me to go on dialysis. I did dialysis at home, and everyone here was great about you know, teaching me how to do it. They taught Allison how to help me, and yeah, it was quite a process. When you're in the middle of it, maybe you don't realize what's going on, but looking back afterwards, it was quite an ordeal.
And Allison, would you say that the help and support that you received from Peterborough Regional Health Centre was pretty good, and that's why you guys are also raising funds to put money back to the centre?
Yeah, absolutely. They were amazing. They came out to the house once or twice a week. This was all during COVID, so they would come out fully gowned, fully masked. Yeah, it was crazy, but nothing but positive things to say about the hospital, for sure. Okay, and Andrew, I understand that you guys are doing a big fundraising effort to be a part of tonight's game, a silent auction. Can you talk about some of the prizes that are going to be auctioned off? Yeah, well, I mean, jersey-wise, I was lucky enough to play in Peterborough here with Chris Pronger. So Chris Pronger, Hall of Famer, has sent through his St. Louis Blues signed jersey. Matthew Shane from Nashville, Mason McTavish from Anaheim, Josh Norris from Ottawa, Eric Carlson from the San Jose Sharks, and Nick Robertson from the Leafs, who also played here and I coached, has signed a jersey and given us 2 tickets to a Maple Leafs game against Colorado next Wednesday. Hall of Fame has brought up 3 prints. The president of the Hall of Fame is also a friend. He's coming up tonight. The class of 2019, 20, and 22, all signed and framed. They'll be auctioned off. Many more things locally. Has helped out a private box for our game next Tuesday. So every time I ask, and I don't like asking for things personally, but for the foundation, I certainly felt had no problem doing it, and everyone has responded. It's been I mean, overwhelming, I guess, is an overused word, but it really has been. Yeah, that's awesome. And Allison, before we let you go very quickly, why are you encouraging people to donate in organ? Is living with 1 kidney okay? What's the misconception about that? There's no misconception. If anything, I feel stronger. I'm so blessed to be able to have done this for Andrew and for another person. I just think we need to raise awareness so people can know you can live with 1 kidney. you can donate part of your liver while you're alive. So it's...
Yeah, really paying it forward. Okay, well, it's so nice to talk to both of you and great to see that you're both doing well. Andrew and Ali Werner, tonight you can catch the Peterborough Petes take on the Kingston Frontenacs at the Peterborough Memorial Centre at 7:05 p.m. Good luck and happy World Kidney Day to both of you. Take care.
Thank you very much.
No melody did gently wake this giant, nor did his soul take the shape of song.
Well, you may recognize that voice, and if you don't, here it is. It's the Crash Test Dummies back with some new music. Sacred Alphabet, released today. Another milestone for a band with many of those under their belts, and band members Brad Roberts and Ellen Reed joining us live this morning here on CP24 Breakfast. Good morning to both of you. Brad, Ellen, great to have you on the program. I've listened to your music for, most of my sort of late teens and adult life, so this is great to finally meet you and talk to you about this. Let's talk first, Ellen, about Sacred Alphabet. What is this all about?
What? Can I turn you over to the songwriter?
Okay, sure, go ahead. Brad, you take it away.
Sure. The song is about the birth of language, and it took me quite a long time to write it. I spent a couple of months on the lyrics, and then I couldn't figure out any music for it. And during the pandemic, I ended up studying counterpoint, which is an old way of writing melodies. And that really influenced where I was at musically, and so I ended up finally getting the music to set it together, and we just recorded it relatively recently, and there it is.
Right. I mean, it sounds pretty cerebral. Ellen, I know you didn't write the song, but it must be great to be performing this song, and for the Crash Test Dummies, of course, to have this longevity that you've both enjoyed here. What's it like, making music now and recording music now versus when you were, kind of first hitting it big, back in the 90s?
Well, it's a lot different now, and it's a lot easier in a lot of ways. In most ways, I mean, we were all in different cities when we were recording this record. Brad was in New York, I was in Toronto, Dan and Mitch were in Winnipeg, so we were able to record the song without actually having to be in the same room.
But the sound that you've created in this, Brad, if I can go back to you now, it's kind of a haunting. There's the depth to this melody. It's got the hallmarks of sort of a classic Crash Test Dummies song. Can you talk a little bit more about that beyond the lyrics?
Well, I'm glad you think it sounds like a classic Crash Test Dummies song. I wrote the piano part to this piece, which was unusual for me. I've never really written for the piano before because I don't play it, not particularly well anyways. And so, it's structured along, like I mentioned earlier, it's structured along the lines of counterpoint, and it's was really a challenge to write. I'm quite proud of it. I think it's one of the best things I've done.
Oh, well, that's really good to hear. And it must be great to still be making such great music, at any stage of your career. But of course, after all the hits, Peter Pumpkinhead, Superman song, that list kind of goes on. Ellen, we've talked about the evolution of sort of writing and sort of getting the music together, but the music industry itself right now, I'm looking at the press release here. You've got 1.3 million listeners monthly on Spotify. That's still a pretty remarkable number. What has Spotify and streaming services done for the Crash Test Dummies?
I think it brings the music to a larger group of people.
It also pays.
Yeah.
Sort of.
A little bit, not as much as it might. Right. But there is a trickle of streaming royalties to be had there.
Right.
Yeah, and it's brought our music to a younger generation too, who might have sort of more intuitive access to streaming services. Kids who were raised on Crash Test Dummies but are adults now, kind of thing.
Right. It was interesting. We had our meeting yesterday, and if you're sort of under 30 on our team, they didn't necessarily recognize the band name. They know it now because we kind of gave them a lot of grief about it and started going to YouTube. But I guess we should have gone to the streaming services for you. Listen, either way, Brad Roberts, Ellen Reed, Sacred Alphabet's dropping today. Good to talk to you this morning. Thanks for the time here on CP24 Breakfast.
Thanks for having us.